27th, 2026. This is Kentucky Roll Call. We made it to the end of the week. Hope you're having a great week. Hope you're having a great day here on a beautiful Friday afternoon in sunny Louisville, Kentucky. We're excited to have you in. We got a fun show planned for you today. I am TJ Walker. I am remote. And on the other side of the remote wall is our producer Matt Childress. Matt, what's up, buddy? How's your Friday going?
Nothing much. It's good so far. Starting out rough on this show so far. I was just refreshing the web page here so I can get the SoundCloud pulled up for when the show's over. And for some reason, the Hoosier Report just started. The intro just started playing. Scared the living crap out of me. But we stopped that, so we're good. Day's been fun. I got, hopped on Just the Cats this morning. That was a good little conversation we had. Feels great outside. It's supposed to feel even better as the day goes on, which I'm excited for. That always puts me in a good mood. And we got to do three-man front last night, which I always enjoy doing. That's always a lot of fun. A lot of discussion there last night.
How'd three-man front go? The only radio show that I know, there may be another one out there, but I don't think there is, that is covering the Louisville Kings. That's producer Matt. That's Roman Kelly. It's every Thursday. They do good work. How'd it go last night?
I thought it went really well. Wasn't my best show ever, but it's only, unfortunately, 22 minutes as of right now as we try and look for sponsors of the show so that we can extend a little bit longer. But so there was just a lot to talk about yesterday. So normally, before the season started so far, there has been kind of one big piece of news or some media stuff to talk about, just like how you guys do. We listen to Mark Pope basically once a week and do that stuff. That's usually what we get into. But this week, there was a lot of news, a lot of roster switching around. Teams are all back in practice right now, so we've gotten some tape on them. We got to see how the players look and how they feel. And then we also had the big news come out a couple of days ago of the official rule changes for the UFL this season. And they always try and do something fun every year and try and make the game more exciting. So most of the show was just going over those, which was a lot of fun. But like I said, there was a lot to talk about. So I just felt like I was a little rushed in the short amount of time we had. So it wasn't the best show, but I still think it was pretty good.
Now, I'm sure it was really great. All right, quick hitter me on some of the rule changes in the UFL this year.
Big ones, 4-point field goals.
Say what? 4-point field goals?
Any field goal plus 60-plus yards is worth 4 points. If you cross the 50-yard line at any point during your drive, you are not allowed to punt. Even if you get a penalty and that backs you up, as long as the ball is spotted on whatever down it is, past the 49, at some point you have to punt on that. You have to punt on that play. You're not allowed to punt anymore. 1 foot in bounds on catches, more like college football than NFL. The only one I don't really like. Overtime is not anywhere. It's more like college overtime. Each team gets 3 attempts, though. It doesn't just go back and forth. And if whichever team has the lead with those 3 attempts wins. If it's still tied, they go to a sudden death. And
all right, a couple things. Think about the last ones, but I've got a couple questions on the first ones. I like this. Again, if you're creating a football league from scratch, and this isn't necessarily from scratch, but it's not the NFL. It's not as established as the other league, and it's never going to be the NFL. But you're playing football in the spring. You want to try to capitalize on the sports drought, and you need to be entertaining. You need to try to do something to make you stand out a little bit. I think all those things are interesting enough, not by itself that I am like tuning in just as somebody from like Minnesota that has no affiliation to any team or anything like that. Being from Louisville, I'm going to be interested in the Louisville Kings. I'm going to be interested to watch just to see what kind of product is put out there on the field. And then I want them to win. I probably won't care so much about the wins and the losses necessarily, but I'm intrigued by it. But if you're just trying to pull somebody that doesn't have a local tie to the league and just to get eyeballs on the TV, which is obviously the goal here, these are good. I don't think by themselves it would have me rushing to watch, but it'd be like, oh, okay. Well, that's kind of fun. You get a 4-pointer. I wonder what that would look like in a football game. You can't punt. That's kind of neat. Also, is there going to be some strategery in, all right, we're on the 48-yard line. Let's take a 3-yard loss here so we can get a 4-point field goal instead of a 3-point field goal. That's going to be interesting to see how that stuff kind of shakes out. The overtime rules, I've got a follow-up question for you. You say you get 3 chances and just kind of what you are is what you are there. So what if you score a touchdown? Is it you get 3 plays and you go against the defense 3 times and theoretically you could score 3 touchdowns? Or is it you do 1 possession and then the other team gets a possession? And if they don't match or beat you, similar to college overtime, it's all over. I guess I got confused by your wording of you get 3 chances.
Yeah, sorry. You get, like, pretty close to what else. You get 3 literal attempts. So, like, this rule is to basically speed up overtime because I feel like NFL overtime is really drug out and takes a long time. Mostly at that point, it's a defensive game anyway. Each team alternates literally 3 attempts from the 5-yard line. So you get 3 plays. And by those 3 attempts, like you said, it can't be a field goal. It has to be a touchdown, I believe. It doesn't specify that, but I imagine if you're on the 5-yard line, these teams probably aren't just kicking field goals, but they could be. Maybe that's a strategy they use. Maybe they kick 3 field goals and they think their defense can get a stop. But I feel like that would just cause back and forth. Teams would just kick field goals over and over again. It doesn't specifically say that, but you get 3 attempts. Each team, whichever team has more success, more points by those 3 attempts is the winner. If it's still tied, then it goes to sudden death.
Okay, all right. I think that's fun. I think that's interesting. So when the season starts in about a month, right?
Yep, 27th.
A month from today, as a matter of fact. All right, how about that? And this will be our last radio show in February, which is crazy to think. The first 2 months of 2026 have already come and gone as of today and tomorrow. And then it'll be March, the best month of the year, the next time we get to do a little Kentucky roll call on radio. We want to hear from you on the Gameday Men's Health text line, 502-414-1450, 502-414-1450. This will be a good day for your text into the show, so if you've got anything to chat or talk about, send it on in. We'll do our best to read it on air. Want to remind you, a week from today, come have a fish sandwich with us out at Molly Malone's in the Highlands on Bardstown Road. Big X Sports Radio will be out there starting at noon. Kentucky roll call from noon to 2. Come out, grab a drink, get your weekend started right, or take a long lunch, whatever works better for you, and come on out to Molly Malone's next Friday, a week from today. All right, 3 games left for Kentucky. We're going to talk a lot about the Cat in the regular season. We're going to talk a lot about the Cats versus Vanderbilt today, give you some interesting angles about that game. I tweeted this out, and this may be a better conversation for once Stephen Peak. Peak should be here in the second segment, maybe the hour number 2 worst case scenario, but he will be on the show today, and this may be better to bring up with him, and I may bring it up with him as a matter of fact once the show goes on. But I had a couple people tweet me just like joking at the tweet that I made about this yesterday, but I tweeted out that Tom Leach said that he feels really good about – he thinks Kentucky's going to look really good against Vandy tomorrow. And I tweeted that out, and I didn't really provide a ton of context on it. It was just simply that. Tom Leach says he expects Kentucky to look really good tomorrow. And I had a couple people reach out and tweet and be like, slow news day, who cares? That's just one person's opinion. Stuff along those lines, not really a huge deal. But I guess I really didn't know what I expected when I tweeted that out there. But here is the voice of the Wildcats who gets to watch this team practice, has access that really nobody else has, and he says on his radio show, I think they'll play really well Saturday. I didn't take that as a nothing, ladies and gentlemen. I looked at that obviously more than the average UK fan looked at it. Tom Leach doesn't really call his shots like this all that much. He may have just kind of kitty gloves. They're optimistic. They're going to play well. He's a professional's professional. He really, for the most part, keeps his opinion out of any broadcast or radio show that he does. It's mostly, I'm bringing on these experts. They're the people that are here to talk. They'll give their opinions, and I'll just react to that, and I'll be a professional, and I'll ask the next question. So, not that he won't give an opinion about I thought the team looked good, or I thought the team seemed motivated. He'll give out those little caveats. And I guess that's ultimately what this one is. I think they'll play really well Saturday. I heard him say that. I was like, oh, all right. Tom Leach is on board. Something this week at the facility, at the basketball facility, has him thinking that they're going to click against Vandy tomorrow. I hope he's right? He doubled down on the radio show today, Tom Leach did. He once again said, I think they're going to put together a really good performance. Now, he has thrown in some disclaimers. I don't know if it will result to a win, but they'll look much better than they did than on what we saw Tuesday against South Carolina. There's something that has Tom Leach believing, ladies and gentlemen, that these Wildcats are going to go into Rupp Arena tomorrow with just 2 games left at home and pull off what would be one of the bigger wins of the season and probably the biggest win at Rupp Arena to date. Which one's currently holding that place marker? Tennessee, Indiana, those were the 2 big wins at Rupp. You need more of them, as a matter of fact. So Tom Leach is feeling good about the game tomorrow. He gets to watch them practice. He's not just a blind butt slapper, even though UK pays his checks. I'm taking that as a little bit of optimism. I feel good about tomorrow, everybody. I feel solid about Kentucky's chances against Vandy. And I really shouldn't. I don't love the matchup. I think I just love the moment more than the matchup. I love the moment, not so much the matchup. This is just a game that Kentucky basketball wins. Knock on wood, not trying to be a little jinxie cat, where are you? But this is right, like getting close to March. We've seen Kentucky win these games. Rupp's going to be rocking. The team needs it. The fans want it. The coaching staff wants it. A little revenge factor for what Vandy did to you earlier this year, just naming the score, basically. By the way, they were without Duke Miles, their best player. One of their best, not their best player. Obviously, Tyler Tanner's their best player. But Miles is their best defender and one of their better players, and he didn't even play in the first matchup, and they still waxed you. It's not an ideal matchup. This is a Kentucky team that is turning the ball over way too much. They're going the wrong direction with turnovers right now. And that's concerning going against a Vandy team that loves to take their chances. They'll go for the steal. They'll play aggressive defense. And sometimes when it doesn't work out, they get in foul trouble. Sometimes when it doesn't work out, they give up a bunch of layups, a bunch of backdoor cuts, a bunch of shots at the rim in the paint. So they're going to be aggressive against a team that has been all too willing just to cough it up. That's not ideal. It's really not. And they just beat a team at their home court that you couldn't beat a week ago in Georgia. And it was a good game, and Georgia played Vandy, gave Vandy everything they could handle, but Vandy looked like the better team throughout that game. That's not what happened when Georgia came to Rupp Arena, but I like the spot. I like the moment for Kentucky. This is a big one for them. They're going to be motivated. The crowd's going to be good. And I've got good gut feelings about it, which hasn't always been the case this year going into Kentucky basketball games. So that's where I'm at. We're going to break down this game and this matchup throughout the show today, maybe give out some gambling picks. I was looking a little earlier to see if a line had come out. We do have Saturday lines for what it's worth. Not all of them, but it's an awesome college basketball slate. That's how you know March is near. It is really good tomorrow. And we already do have some lines out there, but not Kentucky, unless that it's come out in the last 20 seconds, which I just looked and I don't see it. But well, this one's tonight, actually, for what it's worth. Michigan at Illinois. Michigan can bait. I don't know if they can literally clinch the Big Ten or if just theoretically they will clinch the Big Ten. But the Big Ten's on the line tonight for Michigan going to Champaign. They're a 1.5-point road favorite at Illinois. Just off the jump, I'll tell you, I like Illinois to win, to take care of home court. That's a top 10 matchup. That's on your Friday night. That's the way we want to get our weekend started. Tomorrow, we've got Duke, Virginia at noon. These are the top 2 teams in the ACC. This is nearly a top 10 matchup as Duke is number 1 and Virginia is 1-1. So 1 versus 11. So that's a good way to get the slate started. Duke, a 9.5-point favorite. That's the interesting thing. It's a really good college basketball slate, but some of these games I'm going to rattle off to you, producer Matt. Big lines, big spreads, begging you to take the road teams in these games. You can get Virginia at 9.5, like I said. Kansas at Arizona at 4 o'clock, just a treat of a game. Kansas is an 8.5-point dog in that one. So going on the road and getting 8.5 points, that seems like a lot for a Kansas team that's playing really well right now. Texas Tech, obviously, without JT Toppin, they're going on the road to Iowa State. They're 8.5-point dogs. I like the Cyclones to cover that one, the big number there. And then Florida, Arkansas, that's a top 20 matchup. And that is Arkansas going on to the Basket Swamp to take on the Gators. 9.5 points if you want to take the head hog. You can get 9.5 points in that one, producer Matt. So Florida, Arkansas, great basketball game. Texas Tech, Iowa State loses a little shine with Toppin being out, but still a great basketball game. Arizona, Kansas at 4 o'clock. That is an awesome, awesome basketball game. Tons of NBA talent in that one. And then Virginia and Duke, which is, if Virginia wins that one, they can win the ACC. Nobody's really talking about that. Everybody's just a foregone conclusion that Duke's running away with the conference. That's a nooner tomorrow, 9.5-point favorite for the Blue Devils. So interesting to see so many great games, producer Matt, but home court advantage carrying a lot of weight with the points.
Yeah, I think so too. The only one of those that I will fight back on you, I don't think it'll be a bad game, but it's that Duke-Virginia game. I feel like the ACC this season has been a lot better in terms of, getting teams in the tournament and the talent level and the skill level of these teams. But I feel like the top is just not where you want it to be. I feel like Duke is just way far above the other teams in the ACC at this point in the season. I think it's the best defensive team in the country. Virginia, obviously, not having a guy like Tony Bennett, who is a defensive-minded coach anymore, they put up a lot of points now, and they play a more balanced style of offense. But I just think Duke has been too sound this season, especially against teams within their own conference, I think they handle this Virginia team. I think it could possibly even get ugly if they allow Duke to kind of get out there and kind of have their way with them a little bit too early. But I'm open to anything. I'm more excited for the Arizona-Kansas rematch, especially that big game being in Arizona. I feel like we've seen a lot of these top 10, top 5 teams lose at home this season a lot, one being Purdue, who's lost, 4 times at Mackey Arena this season. Arizona just came off a loss in their home court, just already over. It's been a rough February for a lot of the top 10 in college basketball, so I am excited for the slate tonight.
Yeah, and let's not also forget, the only undefeated team in college basketball is playing tonight. Your favorite bubble team, Miami of Ohio, takes their, 28-0, I believe, are they going on the road? I think they're playing one of the directional Michigan schools. Bad time for my internet on my phone just to totally go out. But Miami, Ohio also plays tonight. So when I was rattling off the great slate of games for tomorrow, at least from a betting standpoint, I did not mention Miami at Western Michigan tonight. Miami given 11.5 points. Western Michigan 10-18 on the year.
I heard you're in Scoot's hot take that Miami of Ohio is not going 40-0 this season.
Goodness gracious, I love Scoots. He's just such a gem. 7-8 Sunrise with Scoots on Big X Sports Radio. He just, when he does a show by himself, and we're probably all guilty of this, we all would be guilty of this. He doesn't really have somebody to kind of be like, Scoots, that's not that outlandish. That's not that hot of a take. He'll get really passionate or riled up about something, and then it'll be like, Scoots, it's not that big. Everybody agrees with you. That's where the country's at with something like that. And he had this big thing about how Miami of Ohio, undefeated, probably will go undefeated to finish out the year, but they will not finish the postseason undefeated. That they will not win the national championship and have a perfect year and be the last team since IU to go wire to wire undefeated. And I just had to be like, Scoots, dude, they're being projected if they lose a game to not make the tournament. Of course they're not going to win at all. They're not a good team. They're undefeated, and it's a fun storyline, and it's cute, and it's neat to keep up with. But no, of course they're not going to go undefeated. The question is, do they have a prayer to make it out of the first weekend of the NCAA tournament, assuming they make the tournament? They could still lose their conference for what it's worth. They're not going to. Akron's just a game behind. But if they were to lose I think if they have one loss, so if they lose in their conference tournament, I think they'll get in. I just don't think you're going to have a team, even though their resume really is trash. I can't state it enough. Their resume is terrible. They don't have any quality wins. Yeah, they haven't lost a game, but they have 0 quality wins, 0 against anybody worth a fart. I don't think they have a quad 1 win. Maybe they have 1. I don't know. It's a terrible resume. Maybe they're a good team. They could be a really good team. But they're just, boy, interesting dynamics. And their coach is like, we tried to schedule everybody. Their coach, his name escapes me right now, but he was the coach somewhere semi-big. It didn't work out. Is it Greg Gard? No, not Greg Gard. The other guy from Illinois that I can't think of. Regardless, tell me who their coach is.
Travis Steele?
Travis Steele, yeah, Xavier. He was at Xavier there. Didn't work out. Did he follow Chris Mack at Xavier? And he was like the handpicked guy at Xavier, Travis Steele, and then it didn't work out, and then now he's at Miami of Ohio. I think that's accurate if you look up his background there. But, yeah, so he's got some big-time college basketball experience. He said that we couldn't schedule anybody for it. Everybody turned us down. And I forget who it was, but some national college basketball media member was like, if they're left out of the NCAA tournament at no fault of their own for scheduling, that's outlandish. And I tweeted whoever it was. I was like, no fault of their own. Okay, come on. Who is responsible for Miami of Ohio's out-of-conference basketball scheduling? Is it the University of Kentucky? Is it Ooey Pooey in Indianapolis? Is it Purdue? Is it Purdue-Fort Wayne? I would say, I don't know, I'm crazy like this, but I would say that the sole person or entity responsible for Miami basketball's out-of-conference scheduling would be, I don't know, Miami of Ohio? Oh, but we tried to call good teams, and they were too scared to play us. They saw that we had so many returning players, not Reese Potter for what it's worth. Was that the secret to Miami of Ohio's basketball success, moving on from Reese Potter?
I would say it looks like it didn't hinder them.
It certainly, that is factually true, is that we can definitively say Miami losing Potter has not hurt them at all. Because if they had lost the game, you could say, well, theoretically, maybe if they had a big, long, 7'2" dude just stand in the middle, that would change things. But they haven't lost a game. So factually, that is correct, producer Matt.
There was the discussion a couple of days ago when they reached 24-0, or I guess that would be like a week and a half ago at this point, that at some point, should we just have a number total on wins in a row that sends you to the tournament? Like, and how high would that? Like, if you get to 27-0, I don't care if you're division, if you're NAIA, they're like, put that team in the tournament, let them play. How would you feel about that?
It's like not deal or no deal, but the weakest link. You just bank at some point. If you hit a certain amount of wins, you just automatically have banked into the NCAA tournament. It's interesting.
You like cash in your money in the bank, and you're just ready to go.
You would just have these mid-majors, though, that would just try to schedule the worst schedule as possible. I would like that idea if conference play started for everybody in early December. So, like, if you were having to play conference games, which you would assume are your peers, your equals for the most part, right? You are what you eat. You are what you are in your conference for the most part. So, like, if the mid-majors had to start conference play in early December, then if you get 25 straight wins, yes, I say you're banked into the NCAA tournament.
What if it was like some outrageous number? So, like, it won't happen very often at all, but there are years like this where, like, if there's a special team, like the number is like 28. You need 28 wins. You have to start 27 or 28-0, then you automatically get in. Because, like, I feel like that, even if you made yourself a really bad schedule, getting 27 wins in a row to start your season is near impossible.
Yeah, the only issue with that, though, is if you're getting 27 wins, you're probably making the tournament unless you are the Miami of Ohio situation, in which case you just have truly one of the worst resumes for a team that has as many wins as they do. But you're onto something there, producer Matt, and I'm not totally against it. Where did we start? I brought up the Miami play tonight, and then we got into Reese Potter conversation, and then we got into making up rules for college basketball and the selection committee. Did I divert off from something actually important there?
Before that, you were talking about the talk about Leach thinks that Kentucky has a really good chance of playing well this weekend, and then you did the whole picks of the night, like Friday, like the slate for the Friday night, and then we got to Miami.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I was like, well, you rewound all the way to the beginning of the show. I know that I started with I'm optimistic for the game tomorrow because my guy, the GOAT in play-by-play radio calling, Tom Leach, is optimistic for the game tomorrow. So if he says let's go, I'm ready. They're doing a blue-white out at the game tomorrow.
Oh, you must be angry about that.
If you're in certain sections, you're supposed to wear blue. If you're in certain sections, you're supposed to wear white. I'm not angry in the slightest about it. I hope it looks great on TV. I do think, again, in classic UK athletics fashion, why not more than 3 days heads up? Like, what are we doing? Well, why would that be so hard?
But at least
why
this
not
one
announce
wasn't just
this?
on the back of Malachi Marino. At least like the school was like, hey, guys, we're doing this.
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up, producer Matt, because Malachi Marino had to delete his tweet. And what game was that for? The Tennessee game, the Denham game?
Yeah, I think it was the Denham game.
He had to delete his tweet because supposedly UK reached out to Malachi Marino and they said, hey, Malachi, we actually have something planned later in the season, so we don't want to confuse people. This is what you had planned? And you couldn't announce it then? That like, hey, we're doing the Denham game. Wear whatever you want. Wear denim. It's about what's in them. But for the bandy game, we're going to do a blue-white, half-half sort of deal. You couldn't say it then? What would be the harm in that? So in classic UK athletics fashion, something as simplistic as wearing white if you're in one area or blue if you're in another area, they've kind of botched. They've botched it a little bit. And it's not a perfect 50-50 split, which that's just probably a me being a little bit annoyed sort of deal, but it's like a 55-45 sort of deal on the split. They didn't go right down the middle, which let's put your fans to the task a little bit, all right? Give us a challenge. Give us a little bit more heads up on the challenge. But that being said, I don't have an issue with it, producer Matt. I hope it looks cool on TV. If you're going to a game at Rupp Arena, there was a great chance that you were wearing blue to begin with. So if you're in the blue section, literally nothing has changed for your life. If you're in the white section, there's probably about a 40% chance maybe you were going to be wearing white anyways. So now you just have your decision made for you and you wear white. This isn't a big deal. I just don't see what the big deal is from UK giving us a bit of a heads up on it.
You guys can't see it, but I know TJ is sounding very honest about this, but I mean, his face is so red. I mean, he's actually texting me right now telling me he's going to show up at Rupp Arena and make sure you're wearing the opposite of the color you're supposed to be wearing because he wants you to embrace free will.
Well, then in that case, it would actually work out pretty well, right? If we just flipped it, put your thing down, flip it, and reverse it. But I just, people wear what you want, be loud. The atmosphere at Rupp Arena was going to be great tomorrow, whether they're doing a color out or not a color out. So Stephen Peak will have opinions on this. I know that he's getting things set up right now. And we do have a line on the Cats versus the Commodores. We'll tell you what it is from a betting angle when we return after our first commercial break here on Kentucky Roll Call, Friday edition of the show. Producer Matt Childress, TJ Walker, back after this.
And be on my way. One of these days I'll wake up steady.
Friday. Get your text into the Gameday Men's Health text line. And if you're practicing Lent like I am, no meat today, but Salsaritas has you covered with delicious shrimp. You can get a shrimp quesadilla, shrimp burrito, whatever you want. And if you're not practicing Lent, that's no big deal. You can get all your delicious fresh meat options that they have at the 3 Salsaritas locations around Louisville. Middletown, it's got a drive-through. St. Matthews, that covered patio on a day like today. Oh, that would be perfect. After school, pick up the kids, go to Salsaritas, Wildly Addicted Chips, get everything ready for your weekend, and then keep Salsaritas. Oh, I gotta shout out the I-65 Bullitt County location in Shepherdsville, but keep that location and all their locations in mind for any catering needs. They can deliver the catering for you. It can be waiting at the store, and you can do it all at the touch of your fingertips on the Salsaritas app. Download that app right now. Don't waste any time. Start getting rewards. Every time you get an entree, a side, whatever it may be, you'll get an email. $2 off for queso. $2 off because it's your birthday. Free entree just because. They're always doing something crazy at Salsaritas. We love them, and delicious, delicious shrimp during this Lenten season. Stephen Peak, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
He's doing good. So, couldn't get the mute button. It got stuck on me that time. I'm doing good. We just got done talking with Malachi Marino and his mom and his brother, doing a cool feature on them. So really enjoyed talking with his brother Michael. I didn't realize that he set records at EKU with his 3-point shooting. So obviously we knew he was a good ball player, but also he needs to go into broadcasting. We need to have Michael Marino on the show. He's really good at breaking down the game and gave some honest takes about how he felt about how things are going this season. And it was good talking to Malachi as well. I'm hoping, TJ, that these next 3 regular season games aren't the last 3 regular season games of the Malachi Marino era at Kentucky. He's obviously got some attention. I think he's going to probably test those NBA draft waters. So it was good to talk to him and what this year has been like and what playing for Kentucky. And you can when we talk to his family, it's very clear how much playing for Kentucky means to him. And it's always cool to have guys like that on the team. So I'm hoping we get him back. But he's had a great year, and he's gotten the attention of some NBA GMs. So it was a good morning. Got in Lexington early today. So of course here at KS office to do the show with you guys.
Well, happy that you are, and glad that you made it to Lexington safely. By the tone of your voice, I would seem to think that you seem to lean towards Malachi leaving after this year. And you did just interview his family, so that's not good.
Oh, but I still, if you made me make a prediction right now, I would say Malachi is back in Lexington. But I think that he's definitely going to entertain what the NBA, what other GMs are thinking, how high he could go in the draft. I do think he's going to cost Kentucky some money. They're going to have to spend for him. I think he's making one of the less. I don't think he's making $1 million yet. So I don't know if he's one of the lesser paid guys on the team. But he was only supposed to come in and play like 10 minutes a game, especially once JQ got going, because we all thought Brandon Garrison was going to take this jump. And talking with Michael, there was. I don't know if I would say there was a hesitation about Malachi coming to Kentucky, but they obviously knew okay, they're going to probably bring BG back, and then maybe one more big to replace Amari. So what will Malachi's minutes look like? And he's been one of the best players on the team. It's funny though. Tyler Thompson was doing the interview. She asked Malachi, "What is some of the feedback you've gotten, and what I guess how have you gone about trying to fix that?" And he said the number one thing I see on social media and I see everywhere is that I'm too soft, and then I have soft hands, and so I know I need to get a little stronger, impose my will a little bit better. I thought that was. It's always interesting because somebody like me and we're both chronically online, and so we see all that stuff all the time. And sometimes I think you forget that the players are in the same space and that they are reading the comments that fans and critics make. So that's always interesting for me, and to know that Malachi's taken some of that criticism to heart. And the best thing I got from this interview this morning was just how much the whole family really cares about winning. Like, they know that if Malachi is on a successful team, if the team is doing well and he's playing well, all the personal, all that stuff will happen for him. And that they are really focused on winning. He wants to win something big at Kentucky. Obviously not giving up on this season, but in talking about the future, like his goal, he wants to win a national title here. And it means something to him. It means more than just, if he were to play anywhere else. So it was a good morning.
Well, that's good. I look forward to the interview that Tyler did and that you put together, and that should be good stuff. Yeah, this team without Malachi would have been in big trouble, especially with all the way that the JQ situation unfolded. And he'll have some options after this year, but not interviewing him or his family and not having any inside information on this situation, I bet he'll be back at UK next year, and he'll be one of the one of the prize pieces in the returners. I think you'll get Cam back. I think you'll get Malachi back. I think you'll get Colin Chandler back. I think what they will return, Kentucky fans will be happy about. Now, the big question will be everything else, what you bring in from the transfer portal. But I think player retention, I'm not really nervous about. Maybe I should be. Maybe I should be more nervous than I'm letting on right now. But I bet Malachi will be back. That's my guess.
Is there anybody on Kentucky's roster that you want back that you think may not be back? Aside from like JQ, obviously.
That I would want back that I don't know would be back. I would want Mo Diabate back. And I lean towards him not being back. I won't be heartbroken if he's not back, and you can replace him. You can be better off without him, truthfully, depending on who you got. But I would like to get Cam, Colin, Malachi, and Mo. I think that'd be a great four to run back for another year. And maybe some other like role, Reese Potter if he wants to come back. Braden Hawthorne, I want him to be around. I don't want him to leave. He seems a bit of a mystery. I'd like to just see what he's got in a blue and white jersey and not him go somewhere else potentially. So yeah, I guess I'm adding to the list as I go on here, but yeah, I'd like that core back.
Yeah, there have been some rumors, and we obviously don't get to see very much of the practicing, but there have been rumors that Braden Hawthorne has been doing really well in practice. So I do hope they bring him back. It's actually made me think, like, well, if he's doing so well, why wouldn't we at least entertain or pull the red shirt? Now you don't, right? I mean, now you may only play 5 more games. Like, it's possible you only play 5 more games. So why would you want to burn the red shirt now or throw him out there and have the rest of the college basketball world see what he's capable of, and then it costs you more money, or you end up just straight up losing him. But from what I've heard, Hawthorne has looked pretty good in practice. So yeah, that's another one that I kind of slips my mind, but I'm thinking of how you build out the roster next year. But yeah, getting Malachi back, you're right. That would be, I think of everybody, would you say he's the biggest one for Kentucky to return, or would you put maybe Colin Chandler in that conversation? I think for the front court, because you're going to lose JQ, and you may not want to bring back Brandon Garrison. I know Mark Hope really likes BG. And Brandon hasn't been, like, absolutely terrible or anything. But I would think they may want to go another direction. So Malachi probably does become the most important piece, in my opinion. But do you think that what do you think? Is Malachi the most important piece to return, or do you think you got somebody else in mind?
I follow that logic. I do think next year you could make a case that both Colin Chandler and Cam Williams could be better players than Malachi Marino, potentially. I definitely would make the case that Colin Chandler will be a more important player to Kentucky next year than Malachi, although it'd be pretty close between the two. Cam, debatable. I would lean towards Malachi, obviously, being more important, but it could be up for debate, I suppose. But the reason I lean towards your logic, even though I think Colin probably is a better, maybe more important player next year, is bigs, they don't come around as often. If you can get a big in the transfer portal, you can get good bigs in the transfer portal. But if you miss on one, then you could be scrambling. And then if you're scrambling on one and you miss again, you could be screwed. I mean, it could just be, and similar to a point guard position, as Kentucky fans know all too well, unfortunately, you can't miss at the 5. You can't. That's a position that night in, night out, you got to have somebody that can defend, that can rebound. Scoring's an added bonus. If they can stretch the floor, that's a bonus. So those pieces are somewhat hard to find in the portal. Not impossible, but can be harder than what Colin Chandler does, which is somebody that does a little bit of everything. He's a great shooter, and you can find great shooters in the portal. You can find people that do a lot of the intangibles that are gritty and all the adjectives you want to use. You can find those people. Colin Chandler's great because it's all kind of packaged in one with the familiarity of Mark Pope's system and UK and everything that goes along with it. So those are definitely the most two important players to return. I lean towards Malachi, just a slight nod above, even though I think Colin will be a more impactful player next year. But those are 1A and 1B. And then after that, I think there's a drop-off, and then it's probably Cam Williams. And then after that, maybe a little bit of a drop-off, and then a Mo Diabate. Where do you sit with an Andre Yelovich player? He's another interesting one that seems totally up in the air about whether he'll be back or not. Oh, producer Matt, that was one of the worst noises I've ever heard in my entire life. Like
Andre Yelovich, I don't know. I'm kind of torn on that one. Because again, I see it. I see that he has the ability to hit shots. I like his form. I even like his ability to run the floor sometimes. But it's just so inconsistent. And I know that when I watch him shoot around, I'm like, you get wide open looks. Like if you hit those, like you're hitting right now in these warm-ups and in practice, you could be a star. On the defensive end is where I get a little concerned. He's had some and ones score on him where it's just frustrating because he puts his arm out into the guy. It just makes enough contact that the referee blows the whistle, but doesn't foul hard enough to cause a miss. So I'm pretty torn on Andrea, and I think if he's asking for more money, then you go out and find somebody else. And I do think, TJ, that if you're going to try to sell me on next year's team being a national title team or a Final Four contender, you got to make a lot of changes, in my opinion. I mean, we don't have to completely revamp the roster like I was saying a few months ago. Some of these guys have settled in, and Colin Chandler is one that I kind of flipped on. I really thought he could turn it on this year, and he has. I'd like to see him improve defensively, but I still think there's just got to be a lot of movement in that transfer portal to get me to believe that next year's team is going to be able to win a title. I don't think that you can just run it back and say, well, we had 3 guys hurt, so you bring these guys back and then Kentucky will be great next year. I'm going to have a hard time believing that. So, bring in another point guard, find probably a replacement for Andre Yelovich, and, I don't know what you do with Jasper at this point. If he wants to move on, I think you don't really try to convince him with money to stay. If he wants to go play somewhere else, you just let him go. And you can definitely get a guy like Jasper in the portal. You can get somebody better than him. And
go get Travis Perry.
Right. I mean, that would be interesting to look and see what the output is from Travis last year and Jasper this year.
I think Wildcats Tongue had a tweet. I think Travis had better freshman year numbers. He was more efficient, didn't turn the ball over as much. But they're very similar. They're both like 3 points per game or something pretty embarrassing low. They're very, very similar. He did like a Wildcats Tongue tweet. I had no idea what he was doing, but he tweeted out just like 2 random player stats without giving names or pictures or anything. And it was Travis Perry and Jasper Johnson, which is crazy to think about. I mean, think about the hype of both those players coming into Kentucky. Now, that's a little unfair because Travis Perry was such a high school phenom in Kentucky. But if you talked about what they were thought of as national recruits, the thought process of Jasper Johnson and Travis Perry. And Travis Perry had a better freshman year.
Yeah, and that's pretty interesting, actually. But yeah, Jasper was the big time recruit. He was the guy that Mark Pope couldn't miss on, and you had Travis Perry, who I believe Coach Cal was basically like, yeah, we don't, go to Ole Miss, and we'll see how that goes, and then you can always transfer here. And Travis was like, nope, I'm going to come to Kentucky. I'm going to give it a shot. And that is so wild, because you just thought Jasper would come in and be a star freshman, maybe not to the extent of some of the other Calipari freshmen, but I thought he could at least be like Quade Green. I thought he could at least be a little bit better than Travis Perry. So he's been kind of a disappointment, and some people will, close to him, will say it's not all on Jasper, that he's playing out of position and all of those things. But even if he was playing the two guard, he'd still have to handle the ball, TJ. Like, he
has played the two guard. He's been the two at several different times this year.
Right,
Aberdeen's played point. Now, you can make the case like, well, if you have a true point guard to feed him and get him set up, then that's where he's really being misused. Okay, I could buy into that, but was Jasper Johnson sold to us as just a spot-up shooter? That's not true. Like, he was sold to us as a kind of a combo guard, truly, like as somebody that can go score from anywhere, put the ball on the floor, go score from anywhere. And maybe, everybody's better with a really, really good point guard. Any player in the world is better with a really, really good point guard. They should have a point guard next year. The one thing you've showed us, Jasper, is you can't play point. So that's also on your tape wherever you go moving forward. I agree with your sentiment. If he comes back asking for an up and nil or a pay raise, and he says so-and-so wants me and they're going to pay me more, then you say, best of luck. We'll be rooting for you. And if things down the road don't work out, maybe you could always come back. Who knows? I wouldn't be shocked if in 2 years Travis Perry comes and plays, or a year, Travis Perry comes and finishes things up at UK. Probably not my guess, but you just never know. You never want to totally burn a bridge. But if Jasper Johnson goes and gets more money elsewhere, I don't care. Good, go have fun. And speaking of Wildcats' tongue, they brought up something interesting. Don't let me forget it, and maybe we'll run out of time here at the end of hour one. But before I get to that, one other thing about Yelovich that you brought up, Peak, that I just wanted to touch on. You hinted at it. I just want to reiterate it. If you were to bring back Marino and Yelovich and Mo Diabate and maybe even Brandon Garrison, totally agree. We would look back and just be like, all right, hold on. We didn't like our front court last year, and we're just running it back? And, yeah, they'd probably bring in another piece, potentially be a little scared away from the minutes. The good news is that's not going to happen. They're not going to bring back Marino, Mo D. All four won't be back. Certainly one, if not two, if not potentially three, are going to leave. Malachi, you definitely want back. You got to do what you got to do to make that happen. Mo Diabate, that's just, you can't overpay for him. But if the money's right, I'd like to see him back. But he'll get some offers. Some teams will throw some money at him. But hopefully you can get him back. I'm in a similar boat with Mo Diabate as I am Yelovich, where, like, again, if he goes and gets more money elsewhere, you can't overpay for Yelovich. But if the money's right, I'm cool with running it back. Similar role to what he'll have next year. Now, probably not starting, so maybe even worse role. But, probably around 15 minutes, 20 minutes per game, somewhere in that ballpark. If he's cool with that. Brandon Garrison, I just can't convince or talk myself into him coming back really in any capacity. I'm just over it. He takes way too many plays off for my liking. When he's locked in, he's a pretty solid athletic big. Not amazing, but decent enough. He's way too unreliable for my liking. I'd much rather get somebody that's significantly less talented, but is going to play very, very hard every play. A comparison, producer Matt, and if Brandon Garrison or his family is listening to this, they may find this offensive, but I don't mean it to be offensive. I mean it actually as a praise for the fellow that I'm going to compare him to. I would rather have Louisville's little Greek musclehead dude than somebody that plays as inconsistent as Brandon Garrison does. I mean, what's his name?
Evangelo Zugris.
Zugris. I'd rather have a Zugris that, all right, he is not skilled, but he's going to play really, really hard, and he's going to be physical. A Lance Ware-esque, if you wear. if you will. I'd rather have a Lance Ware type player than run it back another year with Brandon Garrison. And Brandon Garrison is so much more talented as a basketball player than Lance Ware is. But it just goes to show what effort and consistency can bring to a basketball team. So I'd move on from BG.
Yeah, TJ, there's a play in the South Carolina game. It's where Brandon Garrison gets the ball in the middle of the paint. He does he backs his man down and tries a fadeaway where the shot he's taking is actually further away from where he started driving the ball. And in the meantime, you have Denzel Aberdeen wide open in the corner.
Yeah.
And he doesn't pass him the ball. And there's times, we have guys on this team where sometimes they've made up their mind once they catch the ball that they're going to shoot, and it doesn't matter what happens. They're just going to shoot. Mo Diabate is guilty of that, but I'll give Mo this. He's able to put the ball on the floor and at least get it close to the basket and maybe draw a foul. But Brandon's another one. I'm shooting right now. I'm going to shoot the ball, and there's no one that's going to stop me doing it. And it's probably not going to go in, but I'm shooting it anyway.
That specific play you're talking about was a tough look for Brandon. I'll say this to Brandon's defense. A lot of the basketball bennies and people close to the program, including Tom Leach, who I've brought up several times already today, and the coaching staff, they were happy with the way Brandon Garrison played against South Carolina. I was not, and I remember on the post-game show on Tuesday also being like, why did you have that dude in meaningful possessions late in the game? Did you not learn against Georgia? Did you not learn against Auburn? He can take plays off. He's not reliable in those situations. But they actually liked what he did against South Carolina. I did not. And that one play that you're specifically talking about, you have a guard on you, Brandon. You have a guard on you. You can keep backing him down and keep going closer to the rim, but instead he just gets lazy, wants to do his little shimmy shake, fade away, and which, by the way, it's a clean look for a big guy. The guy is a foot shorter than you, so you're getting a clean look from 7 feet, but he still makes it as difficult as possible by fading away. Hour number 2, Kentucky Roll Call. We're talking Tyron Stokes. We're talking money. We're talking GMs. We're talking Cats Vanderbilt. Hour 2. Here on Big X Sports Radio, 96.1 FM, 1450 AM. I did a classic radio no-no. I gave a tease and never pleased. Kentucky on FanDuel opens as a 1.5-point favorite over Vandy. I meant to start that second segment teasing that, but UK a 1.5-point favorite tomorrow on FanDuel. I don't see it yet on DraftKings, but if that happens, I'll let you know. We'll give you some picks in the show today. Do you think that's a proper line, Stephen Peak? 1.5 for a team that lost by 30 on the road?
Well, I heard what you said in the first segment just about, Tom Leach says he thinks that Kentucky's going to come out and play well tomorrow. It's funny. I actually do feel really good about it. I don't know if it's Vanderbilt or what it is, but I went back and kind of looked at that game they played a little while ago now, and 80-55 wasn't great. I thought what I remembered from that game, just off the top of my head, like without looking at anything, was that they just shot the lights out from three. Now Vanderbilt did make 10 threes, but they shot 10 of 26, so it was like 38% from three. Kentucky 6 of 24. So I just kind of thought that I was like, well, maybe Vanderbilt was just absolutely on fire that game, and I guess they were for the first half. There wasn't like a whole lot in rewatching it that stood out as far as like what was the advantage Vanderbilt had, other than early on in the game Kentucky missed everything and Vanderbilt made a lot of their shots. And so I actually weirdly do feel somewhat good about this. I think that Bartorvik and Kinpom both have Kentucky losing by 1 point, 2 points. If you remember how that game started, I mean, Kentucky couldn't make a shot. It was 15-4 at the 13-minute mark, and Kentucky called a timeout. And then as soon as Aberdeen comes down and hits a three, well, then they responded with a three. I don't know what it got to. I guess 20 points was the biggest deficit in the first half, but it was in double digits so fast, and it felt like the game had just started. And you're like, oh, we're down by 11, and we're probably not going to win this game. So Kentucky's playing a little bit better now than they were then. Obviously, the only difference is that they don't have Cam Williams for that game. Did they not have Cam for that game?
I want to say Cam was already out for that one. I could be wrong, but I want to say he was already out for that one.
No, it looks like you're right. I clicked on the box score. He was already out. That's crazy. I can't believe he's missed that much of the season. I don't know why I thought it was more recent than that he went down. But yeah, that's so you pretty much have the same team that you had. Well, it is the same team that you had when you went down to Nashville. But maybe it's just that Nashville is just bad luck for Kentucky right now. And TJ, you say this all the time. Like, you're playing in Rupp Arena, you should have a pretty decent advantage playing at home. And so yeah, I mean, I'm going into the game tomorrow expecting Kentucky to win, not just hopeful. And you can set yourself up here by winning these last 3 games of the regular season. There's an outside chance. You'll need a little bit of help, but there's still an outside chance that if Kentucky is to somehow win out, obviously that last game on March 7th will be extremely tough. But if they could work their way into a double bye. And that just changes everything, changes the outlook on how I feel about being able to possibly win a trophy in Nashville, which I haven't done that in a while. That'd be a lot of fun. I still think they're going to end up playing on Thursday, but it gives you an opportunity to pad that resume and to go into the NCAA tournament, getting a 6 seed where you can do something with. So it all starts tomorrow. Try to finish out this season on a 4-game winning streak. At least try to win 3 of 4, and let's build from there. Because I feel good about this one. And this, honestly, would you say this is the easiest game left, or would you put Texas A&M on the road as the easiest game?
I would say A&M on the road it's 50-50 really. It's a toss up between Vandy at home and A&M on the road. And then the Florida game at home is the most difficult, although strangely enough, you played Florida close. You had chances late in that game to be able to maybe steal one in Gainesville. That was not the case when you took on Vanderbilt. But I would probably rank them A&M on the road, most winnable, tied with tomorrow being most winnable, and then a little bit of a drop. And in the Florida game, Florida's playing truly like one of the best teams in the country right now. So that one is more difficult, but all three are very challenging. And I agree with you. So much is on the table. If Kentucky goes 3-0, having the tiebreaker over Tennessee and Arkansas, my guess is they'll get a double bye, that they'll be playing on Friday if they finish the regular season winning out. Not my prediction. I don't think impossible either, but I would be surprised if they won their final 3 games and didn't start their SEC tournament on Friday. So win 3, you play on Friday. You just win 1 more, I bet you don't start on Wednesday, Stephen Peak. So if they can just find a way to win one of their next 3, ideally all 3 of them, but then you're assuring that you're not going to play on Wednesday. And then if you win 1 or 2, then most likely you're starting on Thursday, anywhere from probably the 5 to the 7 seed, most likely. It probably depends on if you win 1 or 2. So that's what's on the line in these final 3 games. 3, and we win 3, and you're starting on Friday, and maybe you could get a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament. Not impossible. You 2-1, all right, you're starting on Thursday. 1-2, all right, you're starting on Thursday. 0-3, and you're starting on Wednesday. And while I think you make the NCAA tournament, if you were 0-for in the SEC tournament, if you lost your first game, you could be sweating it out on Selection Sunday. So still so much left on the table for Kentucky, despite there only being 8 days left in the regular season for SEC basketball. But that's exciting stuff. Win tomorrow, and I think with the calendar turning to March, you'll get Kentucky fans getting excited about things. Why not? Why not? You got to go out and you got to play the games. I want to read some text on the Gameday Men's Health text line, 502-414-1450. Texter says, John here. By gosh, boys, I hope the Basket Cats just find a way to get a winning streak. I have our Cats by 1 big one. That's all it takes. Just takes 1. Give me Chandler with a crazy game winner against Vandy. Well, got to go. Talk to you later. I hope you're right, Local John. I'll take a point, a win by a point, a win by 20 points. I don't care. Just win, and I'll be good with that. Colin Chandler's going to – really all the guards are going to have to be decent. I don't think you can win the game with one of Oweh, Aberdeen, or Chandler being just flat-out bad, Stephen Peak. I don't think all 3 have to be amazing, but you can't have one of them just be an absolute no-show. So hopefully Colin's ready to go. This is a big game for Aberdeen and his experience, and then Oweh coming off the single-digit scoring performance, which was by design by South Carolina. They said, we're going to take him out of the game, and we're going to make these other people beat us. And to South Carolina's credit, that game was close. They had their chances. So maybe wasn't the worst strategy. Do you envision more teams saying, hey, we'll double Oweh. The second he puts the ball on the court, let's get 2 or 3 guys surrounding him, swarming him. You saw that a little bit earlier in the season in December. I think it didn't work out as well for Oweh, partially because he was still getting back to 100% from his injury. But he's been a lot better as of late. However, Tuesday was a bit more what we saw in November and December with the way teams played Oweh. All right, everybody else, if you beat us, you beat us. We can live with that. We're not letting this dude get 25 points like he does every night.
Yeah, but I think what you saw from that was a lot of other Kentucky players got some really good looks. So it's just going to be up to them to knock those down. I think for South Carolina, you saw that as this is the one way that we can win this game. We're going to try to shut down their best player and hope that the rest of the Kentucky guards don't make shots. And it kind of did work. I mean, Kentucky was 7 of 25 from 3. Colin was still 2 of 4, but in Yelovich, 1 for 6, which is just insane to me because of how many good looks he gets and how much I like the form on his shot. Trent Noah 0 for 3. Trent's going to have to get out of that slump. It's just it's going to happen. I feel like he's in his head at this point, having not made a shot since the Arkansas game. I think that it's just every time he squeezes the trigger, it's a little tense. Jasper was 0 for 3 against South Carolina. So, your bench was 0 for 7. Oweh was 0 for 2. So, yeah, I do think it's a strategy for other teams to let's just shut down Otega Oweh, make everything more difficult for him. But even with that, I mean, how often is Otega going to shoot 3 of 13 from the field, even as teams are trying to deny him his lane to the basket? Technically, he was 3 for 12. He took that shot from half court at the end of the game to try to get to double digits again. But they need to look at trying to stop Denzel Aberdeen. I mean, Aberdeen has been playing really, really well lately. So if you try to shut down Otega, you might be leaving Denzel Aberdeen open. And what has he done the last? He had 19 points in that game against. He's gone 19, 15, 14, 19, and 16 in his last 5 games.
Ooh.
So he's been really, really good. And not only that, but he also had 5 assists against South Carolina. He had 3 against Auburn, then 4, 4, and 3. Like, he has been the guy lately that we thought, okay, well, when Jalen Lowe needs to come out of the game, Denzel Aberdeen is a more than serviceable backup point guard. He's actually been that here recently. So if you're going to take away what Otega Oweh does and leave Denzel Aberdeen, hey, I'm fine with it, with the way he's playing, because I still think like Otega just also had a bad game, and maybe obviously some of that was the defensive pressure he was getting from the Gamecocks, but he also missed shots. And so while I do think other teams might try that strategy, I think it actually might work in Kentucky's favor, and they might be able to burn them. I just think Kentucky just didn't play well against South Carolina.
You'll play well, and I had a whole thing. I was going to go straight into the Gameday Men's Health read, and I just totally blew it. Oh, that's a bummer. Can't get that one back, can you? Gameday Men's Health, redefining men's wellness. No shortcuts, just results. Testosterone, peptides, weight loss, sexual performance therapy. You can visit GamedayMensHealth.com. They're defining a new era in men's health, and our Gameday Men's Health text line number is 502-414-1450. Kirby on the Gameday Men's Health text line says, Brandon Garrison hasn't been terrible, maybe not on San Jose State, but he has no place on the floor for Kentucky. Not sure how else you could describe him. And the thing is, he has to play, though, because you can't play Malachi Marino 40 minutes. So Brandon's going to get out there, and he's going to have to play. And then sometimes when he's out there and he's playing, he actually looks decent. Like, he's a player. He makes a good pass. He may block a shot. He gets a rebound. He's active. He's running the floor well. And then other times, he just looks lost. Like, he just doesn't know if he even belongs on the court, sort of deal. Like, not sure what to do with his hands, sort of stuff. So you never know what you're getting out of Brandon Garrison. I think a lot of it's between the ears, but I also think a lot of it is just he's kind of hit his ceiling as a basketball player. This is what it is. He can't really get better at any areas, and a lot of times when you can't get better at any areas, you may improve on your shooting, or at nothing else, your focus gets better. His focus is getting worse, which is a bit concerning. Kirby goes on and says, I don't get the Jasper hate. I would want him back for sure next year. His upside is way higher than Travis Perry's, and he could really be good long term. If he wants more money or he wants a starting guarantee, sure. But if he can come back on our terms, why the heck wouldn't we? And I think everybody would agree with that, for what it's worth, Kirby. If he wants to come back and be a Kentucky Wildcat, yeah, that's fine. I agree that he does have potential, and I also agree he's got more potential than a Travis Perry. But the point that we were trying to make is that their freshman seasons were wildly similar, or have been wildly similar. And when Travis Perry left, besides a Kentuckian leaving Kentucky, did anybody really say boo? Did anybody cry? Was anybody furious or mad? No. People were like, all right, wish you the best. Oh, he's going in conference? All right, well, we're going to beat you there, little buddy, but we wish you the best. Jasper, it is different, just the persona around him, the thought of him going to UNC or Alabama. Those are schools that always get mentioned with Jasper Johnson. It scares Kentucky fans a little bit more. But I need to reiterate, he has not been good this season. He is not. He has shown a couple solid flashes, but they're few and far between. And a team that has just been begging for a guard to step up and make plays throughout this season, He has been given opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, and he just hasn't answered the bell. He's young. He'll get better. His best basketball is way ahead of him. I, too, would like him back, but Kentucky's just got to be smart about their money and their investments, and you're building a championship roster. Is Jasper Johnson a serious piece on a championship roster next year, Stephen Peak?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so. But I get what Kirby is saying. There have been moments where you see okay, that's all you need to do right there. The Tennessee game, he had that 8 points in the first half. I think he finished with 12 points in the game. He hit some. He's good for a banked-in three every once in a while, but he shows in short or small sample sizes, you see what Jasper Johnson can provide to a great basketball team. And I hope that if he does come back, that just becomes more consistent. But what isn't been, I'm talking about offense, because what's not been consistent, or what has been consistent, I should say, is his defense. It's been consistently poor. So you watch tape, and there's times when you're watching the ball still, like we're in February. You're guarding your man, but then you're playing help defense. Now your man's got a wide open back door, or he's got a wide open three. That kind of stuff it's fixable, but he is an offensive player. So the parts of his game that have to be consistent is going to be on offense, and we haven't seen that yet. I keep saying this, like if you just rewatch that Purdue exhibition game, with what he was doing in that game, I thought he was the reason I thought after that game, oh my gosh, Kentucky can be really good, because I wasn't expecting him to be able to do any of that out of the gate. And so from that point on, really, there's only been a couple of moments where I've seen that Jasper Johnson again. I'm with you, though. I think if he's asking for more money or a bigger role for next year, I'm fine with him coming in and playing 10 minutes or so. But when you look at some of these plus minuses, and I know that stat can be just a little deceptive, but when you go through this, and I think it was, you look at the Georgia game, for example, or the Florida game, where this is the Georgia game. He was minus 16, and he played 15 minutes in that game, and was minus 16. I think he played 2 minutes in the Auburn game and was like minus 8. So, like when he's on the floor, Kentucky's losing a lot. So I'm not holding it completely against him. I'm not holding his freshman season completely against him. I do see the potential in his game. I was big on Jasper Johnson coming into this season. Every time I went and watched him play, for whether it was OTE or it was these other travel teams or just going to one of his shoot-arounds and workouts, dude, he was unbelievable. Like I was so impressed by what he was able to do. And he reminded me a lot of he's a lefty Rob Dillingham. You know, like I really loved his game, and I thought like he won't be a starter at Kentucky his first year, but he's going to be like first or second guy off the bench. And I was admittedly very wrong about that. So I am hoping for a bigger season next year for him if he does come back. And as far as Brandon Garrison, I think the reason that you hear some of the basketball bennies or some of the other people who cover Kentucky or around the program that said that, you know, they like what Brandon did against South Carolina. They thought he played a decent game. I think we've lowered the bar really low for him so that it's not, he doesn't have to do too much for us to go, hey, Brandon had a pretty good game. So I don't think he was terrible in the South Carolina game. But there are moments when he's admittedly he's pretty bad. But like you said, every once in a while they'll run zoom action with him, and he makes a really good pass. I think he can be a great passer. But it's like every 3 possessions he'll do something that's just like, dude, what are you doing? And those are the moments that stick out to Kentucky fans, because usually those are pretty costly moments. So, you know, I try not to be too critical of Brandon, because he gets it a lot already. He doesn't need me being any more critical. But yeah, there's these 2 players in particular that we're talking about, Brandon and Jasper. you can see where the potential is, that these guys could even be NBA players at some point. And then you see.
Okay, I gotta stop you. Brandon Garrison is not an NBA player. Just
No, I'm saying
in good faith, I just have to stop you there.
You can see the moments though where it's like you could see it. You see where like, why can't you just do that more? Why can't you just what you just did right there was awesome. Can we just do that more? And then he'll go and just completely miss an assignment on defense, or he won't box out. He'll miss a weak side rebound, or he'll take a really dumb shot. And so that's the parts that are frustrating with both of these guys, is that you do see the potential, but it's just not nearly frequent enough.
Yeah, Jasper, if everything went perfectly, but maybe he could be an NBA player someday. I think that ship, unfortunately, for old Brandon Garrison, has sailed. But you are right, though. All your other analysis was spot on. Like, when he is locked in, he's somebody that can be out there on the floor, and when he's not, he's somebody that is just completely and totally unplayable. Speaking of Jasper Johnson, that's what the texters want to talk about on the Gameday Men's Health text line, 502-414-1450. A texter says, Jasper is worse than Askew. His defense is embarrassingly bad. He would struggle at Western Kentucky. Well, it's funny that you mentioned Western Kentucky, because the Hilltoppers are on fire right now. You all keeping up with the Hilltoppers at all?
I am not.
Peak? No?
No, I haven't. How are they doing?
They're doing great. I'm glad that you asked. They're 10-7. They're third place in Conference USA, which isn't that great, all things by itself. But they have won 4 straight games as they are, or 5 straight games, as they're about ready to head into conference play, including a blowout win at Liberty, who's leading the conference. Liberty. So it's not impossible. You could see the Hilltoppers win Conference USA and maybe be dancing. I always like it when Kentucky can get as many schools in the big dance as possible. I think Western's got a chance this year. Kentucky will be in. Louisville will be in. Moorhead, no, certainly not. Murray, probably not, but maybe not impossible. Peak would know more about that. Bellarmine and the A-Sun, very unlikely, unfortunately. Don't know what kind of year Northern Kentucky's having in the horizon, but they're usually a player there. Am I missing any other D1 Kentucky schools?
I think you got them all.
Okay.
EKU?
Oh, EKU. Yeah, they're bad. Same with Bellarmine.
Women's team is really good.
Only one's getting out of the A-Sun there. EKU or Bellarmine, and it won't be either, unfortunately.
Murray State's women clinched the Missouri Valley Conference, or at least a share of the Missouri Valley Conference championship last night. That's 2 years in a row. So you might be seeing them on in the women's tournament. And Murray State's in second place right now, but they're several games behind the Belmont Bruins. So they're going to have to pull off some upsets at Arch Madness if they're going to make it to the NCAA tournament. I'll be keeping up with it, though.
So is Bellarmine and EKU the only in-state schools in the same conference? That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I believe so.
Like,
that is wild. Because Moorhead, EKU, and Murray all used to be in the OVC.
Yeah, no, those were the good old days.
Well, that's just like a regional basketball thing too, because Purdue and Indiana are together, but you have Louisville, Kentucky, Purdue, Cincinnati, all these schools that are major D1 programs that are all in different conferences as well. They're only 2 hours away from each other each.
Yeah, it's pretty wild stuff. Jasper, again, if he left, I'm not losing any sleep over it. If he's back, it's cool, but he has been underwhelming. That being said, and I'll say this about Brandon Garrison, I'll say it about Jasper, I'll say it about all of them. Kentucky's got at least 5 more games left this season, and odds are more than that. 6, 7, 8, 9, who really to say exactly what the ceiling has to be on that. Jasper's going to have another okay game, maybe a good game. Can he go out there and maybe even win UK game? If he knocked down 3 threes in a game or something like that, it'd probably go a long way. So season ain't over. They have shown some flashes. Let's just hope that they turn it on. But with Jasper, the concerning part is this is when you should start blossoming, and he is slumping, unfortunately. The texter says, always obsession with getting to double figures there was pretty embarrassing if we're being honest. Yeah, I mean, you could make a grandiose claim that, is his head in the right spot? If he's worried about that late in the game, he's thinking about it during the entirety of the game. I don't really have an issue with it. It was a pretty cool streak. He always gets 10 points. Kind of crazy that he didn't. And he wanted just to keep it going. I didn't really have an issue with it. Maybe not the most professional thing in the world, but they do that in the NBA too, for what it's worth.
Yeah, LeBron finally lost his.
Yeah, well, that was like a point of pride for him, obviously.
I didn't have any issues with it, but yeah, I mean, you know, I get it. If he was doing stuff that was like costing Kentucky the game, or because he's trying to get his shots up, I would be a little more frustrated. But you know, I don't know. I do think he fouled there at the end so that they could, so he can maybe get one more shot off, and that's why most guys don't take that half-court shot with the clock running down. So it was definitely on his mind. And I don't know. I mean,
I wish he would have gotten fouled, and then at 8 points, and he would have had to shoot 2 free throws, and then he made the first, and then he missed the second, and then he had to learn a valuable lesson about how annoying his free throw shooting has been this season. All right. I wish he would have had to learn a hard lesson about his inconsistent free throw shooting, but instead he was just doing half-court shots and silly stuff like that. But that texter also goes on to say, Tex just sitting there while we talk Bellarmine and EKU. Hey, don't forget Murray State women's basketball too. Okay, all right.
Yeah,
so we also
don't forget the racers.
We talked about the Lady Racers. I think we will see some shooting reversion from Jasper and Trent duo over the next few games, and we need it. Certainly do, and that's what I was trying to allude to, is that like Jasper will have an okay game somewhere along the line. I'm very scared to say good game because I don't know. He'll have a good game for Jasper Johnson standards, right? But not a good game in like an Otego-Oweh standard standpoint. But I think there'll be a game where one of those two will hit several threes, which will go a long way to Kentucky winning or being very competitive in a game. So I agree with the texter. And they keep shooting. I like that. I like the mindset of this team for the most part. Maybe not all of them. But I like they're an aggressive bunch. Even though they've had reason after reason after reason to be a bit more timid, they keep coming back. So I like that. Yelovich, he's got to keep shooting them as well. If they're open, these shooters need to shoot, even if they're slumping.
Yeah, I agree. And as for Oweh, he is one more 20-point game away from passing Antonio Reeves for most 20-point games as a Kentucky player. Do you think he gets that tomorrow?
Yes.
All right, there you go.
Yeah, but I will say I'm a little nervous that like South Carolina re-implemented the blueprint for Oweh. They're not very good at anything, South Carolina, but they do have some length, especially in their backcourt and really just throughout their lineup. And Oweh was bothered. Like, you know, he started to press a little bit, and he couldn't kick it up to another gear. And then he started to kind of get the yips a little bit. I think he gets the yips when he gets nervous or when things aren't going his way. The ball starts getting a little slippier in his hands. So I do worry that teams are going to watch that game tape and say, South Carolina is pure booty cheeks, but they did a good job on this dude. Let's try to emulate that. So, and that's nothing new, right? Like Otego-Oweh was the preseason SEC Player of the Year. Every team has had a game plan to try to slow him down, get the ball out of his hands, help defense, try to swat, help side blockers on the backboard. Oweh gets blocked a lot, unfortunately. Teams have tried. It hasn't been successful. It's just South Carolina was able to find a little something extra. But, Peak, what you have been saying, hopefully is what's true. It's just bad game for Oweh. He was due for a bad game. He had a bad game. South Carolina put a lot of attention on him. That's fine. More times than not, he can make teams pay when they do that. He just couldn't on Tuesday. He was due for an off night. I hope that's the case.
Yeah, we'll see if Vanderbilt tries to implement the same strategy. And if they do, I hope that Otego looks for his teammates and doesn't worry about how many points he scores as long as the team wins. Because I think if you do that, then you're going to set up for the other teams to abandon that strategy and just try to play it straight up. I've been waiting for them. The box and chaser you don't really see too much in college basketball. It wasn't that South Carolina was doing that, but they were jumping him and double teaming him a lot. It did make for some wide open looks for his teammates. So if they just knock those down, they'll abandon that strategy. No way he can get his 20 points. He's got a few more games left to do it, and I think he will. Maybe he doesn't do it tomorrow, but out of these next 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 games, why not? Let's just play 10. Let's just play 10 more. He'll get 20 points in one of those.
Let's play 12 more. How about that?
Is that what we need to do to
If Mark Pope understood the assignment, Kentucky'd play 9 more basketball games. Or 12 more
Hot
basketball
take
games.
here, guys. Hot take. Kentucky's not going 40-0 this season. It's not happening.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Dudes.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, guys. I hate to bring the vibes down.
When did Scoot slip into the producer room? Easy on that limb out there, all right? You be careful. You be careful out there on that branch. Some of the excuses made for Jasper are wild. He is nowhere close to physically ready for college basketball. I know you can't say it because you're part of the media, but Brandon Garrison has been absolutely terrible. Oh, I can say it. I can say it if I want to. All right? I'm not scared.
You want to say it? Do you think he's been absolutely terrible?
I think at times he has been absolutely terrible.
Oh, for sure at times. Overall, though, what grade would you give Brandon Garrison?
A D.
Yeah, I'd say it's a C. I'd give him a C.
Yeah, maybe he had that. He had like 2 good games. Maybe D's a little tough, but I would definitely not go above a C-. No, I'm sticking with my D.
Realistic
I'm sticking
question.
with my D.
Realistic question: how many more of the Jasper Johnsons are we going to see in college basketball before we just stop recruiting OTE players?
Oh, interesting. Well, yeah.
The reason I ask this because Isaac Ellis is coming to Louisville next year, and that league is a bona fide NBA All-Star game, just a whole season though. It's literally just a clip farming league. I wouldn't
know what would make you want to send your kid there. I mean, unless your kid just hated hard work. And that's not to say that they're not working hard at OTE, but a lot of the work just seems like drills, like you're just kind of going through shooting stuff. You're not actually having somebody punch you in the chest, and you're not battling. But I don't see the appeal between OTE, but did work out for Rob Dillingham. He was fun to watch. He was good. You're only going to bring back one. You're only going to bring 1-4 back, and it has to be Yelovich. I like Mo Diabate in a vacuum, but he doesn't complement Marino at all. That's a good point. They do not complement each other well. They can make it work, though. It's not ideal, but you're seeing a lot of late game situations. Those 2 guys battling for rebounds, defending, and yes, offensively it hurts you when you have those 2 guys out on the floor together. But it's getting a little bit better. They're complementing each other slightly better on the defensive side of things.
Yeah, and actually talking with Malachi and his brother today, I think Marino's free throw shooting has gotten a lot better. So he's going to work on maybe taking a few steps back to the three-point line over the summer and really working on that part of his game to add a three-point shot. His brother was obviously a really good shooter, so he just has to work with Michael a little bit in the offseason and get his three-point shooting down. If that becomes the case where Malachi can be a serviceable three-point shooter, if he could shoot somewhere in the 30-35% range, then Mo Diabate actually would make some sense. I just don't like it when the way that Mark Pope wants to play, and all he talked about in the preseason and early in the season was we want to shoot 35 threes. I'll be interested to see if Mark Pope wants to go back to that next season, and if he does, then having Andre Yelovich over Mo Diabate does make some sense because you're going to want to have 4 shooters on the floor at all times. Mo Diabate shooting 12 of 26 last year for Alabama how lucky was Nate Oates to have that Mo Diabate, because I think he's 2 for 21 this season at Kentucky, and they're the same looks. Nobody's guarding him. They're the same wide open looks or the shot clock winding down looks. So if that's the case where you can have Malachi improve, kind of like Patrick Patterson did, TJ, I don't know if you remember, his first 2 years at Kentucky, his shot was ugly, and then he went to a camp over the summer, came back for his junior year, and he was one of Kentucky's most reliable three-point shooters. You cannot leave him open. If you can get that kind of production out of Malachi, then it actually kind of makes sense as to why you might want Mo in that 4 spot. If that's not the case, and you obviously won't know until you've already put the team together, but if that's the where this is trending, or Mark Pope thinks that's where Malachi can get, then I would prefer Mo. If not, then let's just hope that Andrea just had a bad shooting year this year. You can bring him back and to play that 4 spot where he can shoot threes.
We have received a delay of game violation for our impending final commercial break, so we need to take that now, and we'll take the 5 yards as well. This is Kentucky Roll Call on Big X Sports Radio. One final segment coming up next on Big X. Welcome back. One final segment, Kentucky Roll Call here on Big X Sports Radio, 1450 on the AM side of things, 96.1 on the FM side. We're on YouTube, streaming every day, even if we're not in studio. Check us out there. Give us a like, leave a comment, do all that fun stuff. And then wherever you get your podcast, you can find Kentucky Roll Call. So just search for Kentucky Roll Call, and we'll be there, and you can listen to us, and ratings and reviews there as well. Always appreciate that stuff. Appreciate people texting into the Gameday Men's Health text line, 502-414-1450. And I appreciate a little bit more info about Kentucky's spring game. Will Stein tells Chuck Oliver, hey, those are two people that I've talked to. When I'm like last on Chuck Oliver's UK list. So like once every 3 months, I'll get a text being like, hey, we couldn't find anybody else, TJ, can you come on the Chuck Oliver show? But on the Chuck Oliver show, Will Stein tells Chuck Oliver, the guy who runs the show, that Kentucky will be doing a spring game, which we already knew about, but it'll be April 18th at 11 a.m. So breakfast and spring football on that beautiful spring day, Saturday, April 18th. Will Stein told Chuck Oliver there's going to be some tackling, but don't expect it to be like a real game or anything like that. And then Kentucky baseball hosts Vanderbilt at Kentucky Proud Park at 2. So they want everybody to make their way over from Kroger Field to Kentucky Proud Park and have a full day of UK athletics. We won't spend a lot of time on the spring game. It's still months away. But, Pete, this is what we asked for. At least this is what I asked for. Have it early, family-friendly, have a bunch of stuff for kids. They haven't really given all that detail out, but I'm almost certain that they will. With it being at 11 a.m., that's their way of saying, hey, bring your families, bring your kids. Let's have a fun afternoon. And we're not going to – this isn't going to be like a 7 o'clock at night. Your Saturday night plans are going to be watching spring football. Now, this will just be something to do in the morning. Come check it out for a little bit and then get on with your day.
When Mark Stoops kicked off, we kicked off the Mark Stoops era, it was, 50,000 or something like that for the spring game. And I believe it was an evening, maybe 6 o'clock, maybe it was 7, something like that. What do you think as far as attendance will be for something like this? I don't know that will it have the same sort of excitement levels that we had for that first Mark Stoops spring game. I think, for one, we haven't had a spring game in a while, so people will be excited just to have one to go to. And I agree with you, by having the breakfast ball, having it at 11 a.m., you do encourage people to bring their families, and they can still do something later Saturday night. Maybe that's going over to Kentucky Proud Park and watching the Cats take on the Commodores. But as far as attendance goes, do you think you can at least get that lower bowl of Kroger Field packed?
Strictly will have to do with the weather. If the weather's good, I bet the crowd will look great. If the weather's bad, then obviously no. This will be a bust. But I'm glad that they're doing something and gives us something to look forward to from the football side of things, and keeps football fresh in our minds. And once basketball season's over, we'll flip the page and get right into football talk. So April 18th, 11 a.m., Kroger Field. This has always been free. I imagine it'll be free this year as well, but we'll provide more details if we find it. We're running out of time. I wanted to get into, and it was all so natural. It was such an easy, natural segue. We were talking money and who to bring back and all that stuff. I listened to We're Up to No Good. Highly recommend downloading their podcast. Big fans of theirs. Wildcats Tongue, Matt Sack, Buddy, Bradley, they all do a good job. They had interesting takes on the GM situation and more importantly on Tyron Stokes. Matt Sack basically just said, blank check Tyron Stokes. Whatever it costs. He had an interesting, I'm curious if you agree with this. If you think Tyron Stokes is worth it, you need to be willing to pay whatever to get him.
So I saw where the price tag for Tyron could be as high as like $6 million. So depending on what your budget is, here's what would worry me though. You spend that much money on a guy, and then you end up in a Darian Peterson situation, and that would really frustrate me. I'm not saying that it would happen, But if you go all in on one guy like that, and for whatever reason he tweaks an ankle and doesn't, want to risk it and sits out, that would really suck. But on the other hand, he could be a guy that wills you to the Final Four. Matt, you're a soccer fan. There were studies done that was like you shouldn't invest in star players in soccer because you're only as good as your worst player. I think in basketball it actually makes sense to invest in star players, and I think that it's more valuable because one guy out of 5 can certainly flip a game and change a season. So I do think that you need a star player. Kentucky has a star player, and I'll take it away, but it feels weird that he's the star player. Like you do need somebody like Tyron Stokes, and also just to flip how everything feels right now as far as recruiting. It would be a massive win for Mark Pope, and then to get some guy like Tyron to the next level, to show that you can do that, and maybe you continue to bring in top freshmen again. I think that would be big.
No, I mean, you're right in the terms of in basketball in general, and we've seen it this year all across the sport, that the freshmen are lighting it up. A star player can lead your team in basketball to great heights. One guy can impact the game more than I believe in any sport out there. I mean, I guess besides baseball. Baseball, I think, is the obvious one. If you just have the best hitter in baseball, you could probably win most of your games with an average team. But I feel like Kentucky is in a really interesting situation right now where I don't think a Tyron Stokes would be the thing that would lift them up to the next level. Tyron Stokes, I mean, he is a great talent. I don't think this recruiting class is anywhere near what the 2025-2026 one was. I think it's the point where if you want to spend all that money on Tyron Stokes, Kentucky is definitely the team that can do it with the funds and the resources they have. But this team still needs a point guard. Like, it still needs a point guard on it. Like, it's one where, yes, Tyron Stokes can fill the void of multiple holes. He plays that kind of big combo guard role. He can play all the way from down the 2 all the way up to the 4 in whatever situation you want to play in. But you're going to have to go to the portal for a point guard, and point guards in the portal come at a serious premium. Like, good ones that are proven, that can do what you want to be genuine facilitators, can make their teammates better, and are proven in the tournaments landscape. Those ones even more expensive. So for me, it comes down to, is this the recruiting class you want to bank almost half of your resources into one guy in, when you need Malachi Moreno, you need him. You need to give him help. You need somebody that can come off the bench and take him minutes away, because you're not getting that year with Modi Abate or Brandon Garrison. You need a point guard, but you also showed that this season that you need more than one. You don't just need a Jalen Lowe this year. You need somebody who can come off the bench with him. So now you're getting 2 point guards and probably 1 or 2 extra big men besides Malachi off the transfer portal. I mean, those 4 players are your if we're going off of the money Kentucky has this year, if you want a national championship type roster, whilst also getting Tyron Stokes, those 4 players are that's all your resources right there. You're done. You have no depth. You have no bench. You're missing another player. You're going to need Colin Chandler to come down and say, hey, man, we want you here. I know you love Mark Pope. You're going to have to take more of a minimum this season so we can bring these big guys in. Or you're going to need guys like Jasper Johnson to fill the backup point guard and say, look, we're going to be able to pay you nothing. You're going to have to this is the love of the game here at Kentucky. You want to win a national championship, like you say, you're going to have to lose some money here. So I'm not against going in on getting Tyron Stokes, but Kentucky is in a situation where you need so many pieces to build around that I think that this year, going in on a freshman like that with that high of a price tag would only hinder Kentucky basketball for another season.
I kind of agree with that. Like, if the price tag is true, which some people have said it could be as high as $6 million, and you got to pay somewhere around $2-point-something million for Malachi. Well, you're closing in on $9 million, and that's 2 players. So, yeah, in a way, Mark Pope wants to build the roster with depth. You start to run out of money pretty quick after that. So, I tend to agree with you there.
I think it's a clean sweep. There is a limit for Stokes that you just can't, in good conscience, pay. So I disagree with Sack. I love Matt Sack, but there is a line that you just can't cross with Stokes. I don't know where it is. I'm not 100% sure where it is, and I think Matt's smart to bring that up too. we mentioned it with Mo Diabate and Yelovich in regards to Malachi Marino. We're all assuming Malachi Marino will be back. How does Stokes and Marino pair up with one another? And Stokes maybe is such a good talent where it's just, hey, we don't care. He's such a freak. The pieces will fall in line after him. But if this year taught us anything, you really got to be careful with that. And you got to know what pieces you're putting together and how they're going to complement each other. And with star freshmen, yes, more times than not, you do just bring them in and let the chips fall where they may, but not for a blank check. You just can't say we're bringing in all the talent we can. I don't know how it's going to fit, and also we're not going to have enough people to round out the roster. We're not going to have enough money to round out the roster. So you have to be careful with it. It's a delicate dance. I think Kentucky would have the money to be able, all right, Stokes, you want this much? I think Kentucky could find the money for him, but you do have to worry about how much you're going to have left. And I do see some people say, listen, you get the right amount of talent and people are excited about the roster in April, they'll pay more money so in early May you can get one more piece. Or if there's that surprise addition to the portal in late May or June, or a coach leaves or something like that, you still want to be a player in that scenario. If you've got a good enough roster, that money will be available. Do you all buy that? I actually do kind of buy into that to a certain degree, that, like, you know, there's always money in the banana stand to a certain extent, but I just want Pope to get a win on a recruit. Forget about the money, forget about overpaying, not paying, any of that stuff. I think he just needs to get the recruiting monkey off his back and get a win.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing right now that fans can look at and say that he is failing at, because there's been injuries this year. There's a number of excuses as to why this year did not go the way that we all hoped it would. But the most damning thing about this season is that you have nothing to look forward to for next year because you don't have any recruits. So the only two freshmen that he's brought in while at Kentucky were two Kentucky kids. So yeah, I do think he needs to get a win. Looking at if it's in that lower number, if it's in that $4 million range, then maybe. But I do agree that there has to be a limit, because you can't just go, if the NIL is that high, I just don't know if you can go all in like that.
Do you think that Mark Pope might be in a situation right now where he knows that the heat on recruiting is on him, that he might be willing to overspend even more than he needs to for a guy like Tyron Stokes just for that win?
I think he needs to put together a team that can win, and be great all year. So if he thinks that Tyron Stokes will do that, I don't think, we'll forget about recruiting for this year if next year's team is great. So whatever that takes, whatever that looks like, making next year's team great, that's what he needs to be focused on.
We're going to focus on the roll call picks of the week presented by Chad Hennessy with InsureMax, proudly serving the Louisville area for over 25 years. Call Chad Hennessy at InsureMax today, 502-479-4085. Chad Hennessy, St. X grad. We'll do you wonders over at InsureMax, 502-479-4085. And shout out to the St. X Tigers. You're 36, 26, I don't know. They're your district champs. All the numbers run together. And same with your Trinity Shamrocks, Stephen Peak. They also are district champs. They will get a home game in the 7th region tournament, just like St. X will. They'll draw the 7th region tournament tomorrow. But St. X could find themselves playing Wagner or Central or the loser of Eastern Ballard tonight. And the same applies for Trinity, with the exception of replace Wagner potentially with Mail as a first-round matchup in the 7th region. So that all gets started next week. Exciting stuff in high school basketball. All right, my pick for the game, not my Chad Hennessy and InsureMax pick, although I do think Kentucky wins. I've got a good feeling about it. Leach has a good feeling about it. This is just a game that historically Kentucky basketball usually wins, kind of like the feel-good around March game. There's a long history of Kentucky winning these types of games. So I'm going to take the Cats. It's going to be close because this team can't blow anybody out, and that's okay. Vandy's a good team. It'd be impressive if they did blow them out. But I'll take the Cats by 3 in a close one. UK pulls out the win.
I got Kentucky by 6, 78-72. MVP, I'm going to go with Otega Owe. I think he has a bounce-back game. I think it'd be rare to see Otega-Oweh have 2 bad games in a row. So Kentucky gets the win, hits some free throws down the stretch to give themselves some separation from the Commodores. A big win in what could set up a great ending to the season for the Kentucky Wildcats.
I think Denzel Aberdeen's going to have a big game. I like Illinois tonight. That's your Chad Hennessy and Max bet of the game. Go ahead and take the home team. Illinois plus 1.5, but go ahead and take the money line. Clemson, Louisville 1.5 point favorite tomorrow down at Clemson. Clemson's lost 5 straight games, maybe 4 straight. I think 5 straight. They need to get off the schneid. That's a big one for Clemson and U of L tomorrow. It's going to be an awesome Saturday of college basketball. Come on out to St. Margaret Mary's Fish Fry today. I'll be out there working. And then we'll be doing the post-game show on ESPN Louisville Plus tomorrow, their YouTube channel, right after the game around 4 o'clock. For Stephen Peak, producer Matt Childers, I'm TJ Walker. Thanks for listening all week. This is Kentucky Roll Call on Big X Sports Radio.
Welcome to Greg Coates Cars and Trucks. I'm Jamie Coates.
And I'm Bjorn Coates. Did you know Greg Coates Cars